Hey, folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Tuesday, March 8th. And for the second day in a row, we're going to talk about defensive line. But that's okay. I promise it's going to be different than yesterday when I basically explained that the Steelers are going to draft a defensive lineman in the first round of the 2025 NFL draft unless something weird and unexpected happens between now and then because, well, they're setting themselves up to do exactly just that. Since then, they signed Isaiah Loudermilk, looking like defensive line is really focused this offseason as it has obviously been. Good question from Ball knower Justin Watson, 23, said, I've heard from people I know adjacent to the staff that the defensive staff has soured on big body DTs. Have either of you heard this? Question was on Afternoon Drive, so question for me and Smitty, but I'm stealing it. Sorry, Smitty, it's mine. He also 100% agrees on the rookie quarterback thing. Yeah, that's not happening. So has the staff soured on big body defensive linemen? Soured is probably not the word I would choose. I think the staff understands the benefit of having a giant guy in there occasionally. But the difference is the way they play defense has changed, and there's just not as much of a need for a traditional nose tackle. I feel like I've done this before, but let me try to explain. It's whiteboard time. This is a diagram of the traditional Okie. It's called that because it was invented at the University of Oklahoma in the 60s, 3-4 defense, okay? I'm sorry, we got some glare there. You have nose tackle, true nose. Okay, you have defensive lineman, 5 technique. Straight up on the tackle, straight up on the tackle. Okay, the Steelers don't play this anymore. Okay, notice the linebackers off the ball. The old Okie, the idea is the same as a 4-3. You're going to get 4 rushers. You just don't know which of these guys is going to be the rusher. It's leaving it. Get my mic out of the way. So it's leaving it ambiguous. Okay. What the Steelers do now, I got my mic all the way out of the way. What the Steelers do now is instead of 5 tech, these guys play what's called a 4-eye inside the shoulder of the tackle. And their 2 edge rushers, their 2 outside linebackers, are all the way up on the line of scrimmage, and they're almost always rushing. Okay, that was a bad X. This is no longer a balanced formation. It's no longer a base formation. They've turned their 3-4 defense into a run-stopping sub-package, okay? And because these guys here are now more into the gap, it's just as easy for an offensive line to double-team an end as it is. It's actually easier for an offensive line to double-team an end as it is the nose. So if your problem is Benton not doing well against double teams, and he hasn't, in base defense, it's not easier if you move him out here to avoid him getting double teamed. Now, and especially if you put a bigger guy in there, you would want that guy to be the one to get double teamed. But because the Steelers have turned their 3-4 defense into this thing that they can't do very often, except against obvious running situations, it's just not that important. Keeanu Benton played 209 snaps of nose tackle last year. Of that, a significant portion is when they're in their goal line defense, which means we're going to take a corner off the field and a safety off the field and play with 5 defensive linemen. Everybody's head up. It doesn't matter. So there are 100 to 150 snaps a year where having a bigger guy than Keeanu Benton play nose tackle, would it be beneficial? Yeah. But 150 snaps a year is not worth a roster spot. The player has to be able to do both. Okay? You have to be able to play nose tackle, and when the Steelers are in their base defense, and we need to start calling it this as a media because this is their base defense. 3 tech, edge. That's the base defense. Nickel. Wow. Bad end. That's the base defense. If you're 345 pounds and can't move, you can't play this. Okay? And so then you're limiting that person to 9 snaps a game, basically. It's not barely even worth rostering a guy for 9 snaps a game. Montravius Adams is here mostly because he can play some nose tackle. That's the level of investment the Steelers are willing to make in a guy who can only play nose tackle. Now, you get a big guy who can move, then it's different. It changes the equation. Now he can play nose tackle in the base, and he can move to 3. He can play nose tackle in the 3-4, and he can play 3 tech in the nickel. That's Kenneth Grant. The reason I think Kenneth Grant is the best fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers, my mic, I hope you've been able to hear me. The reason that Kenneth Grant has been the best fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, in this draft, is that he can play nose tackle right away. I think he has the upside to play 3-tech down the road. He makes the team better at 2 positions in the 3-4 defense because I think Benton is better than Larry, and I think Grant is better than Benton as a nose tackle. No one else does that for this defense. I think it's why he's the best possible fit. But it's not like if they get Derek Harmon, they're going to be in some scramble to find out who's going to play nose tackle. Doesn't really matter. Benton is okay enough at it for 10 snaps a game. They're already, when they're in that defense, putting 5 guys on the line of scrimmage. Like, you should not need to be dealing with a lot of double teams in that situation. So, to answer the question, I don't think they've soured as a staff on the impact a big guy can have. I think the cap math and the roster math and how little they have come to play that defense and the way they play that defense now means that it's just a very small bit part. And so in an effort to find guys who can do both, look, there certainly you get a big guy who can do both like Kenneth Grant. That's a good player. That's a great pick. But those guys are very rare. Most of the time, if you want somebody who can do both, it's going to be a smaller player like Javon Hargrave, like Benton. Okay. So I think that answered the question. It's why I love Grant. But like if they, like I said, if they draft Harmon, they draft Nolan, they draft Tyleik Williams, there's not going to be like a story at SteelersNow.com. Oh my gosh, who's going to play nose tackle? How are they going to get by? They'll be fine. They'll be fine. It would be like if your dime corner, if you had to have like a completely different person to play dime corner, would you do that? Let's say there's a team, the Bengals, so you play twice a year, and their number 4 wide receiver is 7 foot tall. Okay. Would you draft a 7 foot tall guy? Would you employ a 7 foot tall guy to play 10 snaps a dime twice a year against the Bengals? No. Like, that's basically what you're doing if you go spend significant resources on a nose tackle just for the Ravens. Because the Browns, who were the other team that used to run a lot of 2 tight ends, they don't have the tight ends anymore. So the Steelers really only played 3-4 significantly against the Ravens. They did against Washington and Philly last year, but those guys are, man, I'm killing the mic today. Those guys are, they're not here that often. They're not in the schedule enough to worth dealing with. Most teams in the NFL are running 3 wide receivers. So, like, nose tackle, useless against the Bengals, useless against the Rams, useless against all those other teams. So, hope that answered the question. There is an affinity for big guys still, but it is a narrow part, and they have to be able to do more than one thing. They can't just be big. We'll see if they get one of those in this year's draft. That's all I got for today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel. Go to SteelersNow.com and check out the written content. Until next time, enjoy.